want to ask you to do a little mental exercise. If you're a religious person, or even if you're not, because my wife and I don't consider ourselves religious, but we like to look at religion to help us understand where we're at, because we come from being religious. And looking at where you were sometimes helps you see where you're going. And because of our freedom from religion, we truly believe that we can see things clearly looking back, because we've been both these things. We've been in that bondage, which was what we believe conventional religion is, and we've also been free. And one of the components of the bondage of freedom, the bondage of religion, is fear. It's clearly fear, and mostly it's fear of hell. Fear of hell for you, fear of hell for your loved ones, and this is how they compel you to do the things they want you to do. And I just wanted to look at several ways different religions have of looking at this issue of hell and taking it to the end. Just taking it right to where it would be, in other words. So, I'll just jump right into it just to show you what I'm talking about. Say a Calvinist. If you don't know Calvinists, they just basically believe that God selects everyone for where they're going to go before he creates them, or in his creation of them, however that goes. This one's going to heaven, this one's going to hell. So take that scenario. The Calvinist goes to heaven and is standing there with his God, or her God. I'm fair here. You're standing there with your God. You're a Calvinist. Calvinism is true. It's the real thing. And someone you love or know isn't there that you hoped would be there. So naturally, you ask, God, why isn't so-and-so here? And he looks at you and says, I didn't want him here. I never wanted him here. I didn't even make him to be here. Well, what are you going to say then? You're not going to question that. How are you going to question that? That's the end of the subject. And on the flip side, you might say, well, I know about this other one. This other one did a lot of bad things. I saw him in the newspaper, or she hurt me personally. He hurt me personally. What about them? How come there? I wanted them here. I made him or her to be here. That's the only answer you could give. I'm just throwing it out there just to illustrate. You may think that's a great thing. I think it illustrates a flaw. So say go to another one. Go to the religious person. And religious in the standpoint of you must do and execute and perform these sanctioned by my denomination usually. They'll claim it's by God. God sanctioned these things. But it's their little ceremonies, their little officialities. I'm grasping for words here because I know there's another one, but it's just basically these are the things you must do to be in heaven. So now that's true, let's say, and this person goes to heaven, and they look around and discover that the person they love or would be glad to see isn't there. God, why isn't this friend, loved one of mine here? They didn't get baptized right. They didn't perform the things I wanted them to do. I gave them the right denomination. I know there's 35,000 of them, but this is the one that you were in. You were in the right denomination, and you did all the right things to the right parameters. You did all the right things. That's why you're here. Yeah, but they were nicer than me. They were better than me. In fact, they got me in my church building, and they were there more than me. Sorry, they didn't listen. They didn't meet the standards. They missed it. And again, on the flip side, what about that one? I know about this other one. That was terrible. That was mean. That was nasty. They did get baptized right. They tithed. They offered. They taught the Bible study to the children. They did all the things they were supposed to do. That's why they're here. Okay, third one. The people that pray or believe you can pray people in. That after the fact. In other words, a person dies basically in a state of unbelief or not saved, and they believe that through the efforts of people, buildings full of people, denominations, churches, families, whatever, you can get them in through your efforts while they remain in some holding station. Again, you get to heaven. God, why isn't my loved one here? Oh, you just missed it. Because I have this standard. I mean, come on. God's basically saying, come on, we got to have some standard. You guys tried, understand that. You did a couple Sundays, but then you forgot about them. You stopped praying for them. You didn't pray enough. You were supposed to pray for them after they died for the rest of time until the end of time came. Or whatever his standard is. Maybe he sets it at 12 months. You got to pray for them 12 months. I'm not sure what those religions say it is. Maybe there's a standard, maybe there isn't. Maybe they just say, hey, we do our best and God covers the rest. Kind of one of those grace plus law type of things. I don't know how they envision it, but you got to realize that there's going to have to be an answer like that when you ask that question. If those things are true, you didn't do enough. Sorry, you didn't do enough. Or like say Calvinism, I didn't want them here. Or, they did the right things the right way. This mean, evil, awful person did the right things, and now in this form, they were prayed for enough. And again, on the flip side, why is that bad one here? I know, it wasn't in the newspaper. They hurt me. They hurt my family. They did awful things. This was an evil person. Oh man, churches were praying for them everywhere. Didn't you know? They weren't just prayed for from their church. They were prayed for from churches around the world. There were so many prayers for them. They got in ahead of some of the so-called saints. They really met the standard and exceeded the standard. So they even got a bigger mansion and all that stuff. So you see, and again, if you see a flaw in this, I would love to hear your side of it. If you're one of these factions that believes one of these things, I want to hear your side of the story. If you see some big flaw, some big hole you can drive a truck through in my thinking that I'm missing, please go ahead and share it with me. Just don't tell me it's because your denomination says so. Because if your denomination says so, how do you know your denomination is right? Because I'm sorry, God is not a Baptist. He's not a Catholic. He's not a Protestant. He's not any of those things. He's God. That's who he is. So if you can give me an answer from the Bible why God would not respond that way, if those belief systems are true, let me know. Because the final one is what I believe the truth is, what my wife and I believe the truth is just he's God. And he wants the same thing he always wanted right from the garden. Do you love me? Do you believe me? Do you just want to be with me? Because I want to be with you. Because that's why I made you. I made you because I want to be with you. And so then the questions are different. I'm not saying they're necessarily easy. But then, say for instance, a person like myself or my wife gets to heaven and we look around for this loved one or that loved one and we don't see them there. And, God, what about so-and-so? I love him so much. And I'm sorry, they didn't want me. They just didn't want me. I reached for them all the time. I was always speaking to their heart. I wanted them here. I really did. Do you know how much it meant to me that they rejected me? Do you know what that felt like? It really hurt. It really did. I wanted them here, but they didn't want me. I'm sorry. You might say, well, that's sacrilegious. God doesn't say he's sorry. I'm not saying he's saying sorry because he failed, but I think he does feel our pain, and he would know that we're hurting because he hurts more. But that's just my friend. That's just my loved one or whatever. But that's his own child that he personally made. Who do you think is going to be sadder in that? He truly would be sad. And if there was one around that I thought, wow, that person shouldn't be here, I have to have faith that he knows what's best. He made the right decision regarding that person. And he might say something like, well, I know, Mark, believe me, I know worse things about him than you know about him. But when it came right down to it, they made a decision. They decided they wanted me. They didn't want all those evil things. Even the things they did to you, they're truly sorry for, but they know they couldn't fix it. Just like you couldn't fix any things you did to me either. And you standing there and holding a gauge to it and saying you're better than them isn't going to work. I know they're bad. I know they're evil, but so are you. And you chose me. And that one did too. As rotten as they were, they chose me. And I changed them. Just like I changed you, because you didn't do it. And I know that, just for what it's worth. My wife and I know we don't change ourselves. We're changed by our God. We don't do the good things so that he'll accept us. We're accepted by him, and we know that, and that changes us. So those are just some scenarios we wanted to share with you. Ask you to consider If you believe in any of them, what do you think? How do you think that's going to go down? How is that going to happen? And does that really make sense to you? Or does the last one make more sense? Do you think your God just loves you because he made you and he just wants to be with you? And that's sufficient. In Jesus' name, amen.